YouTube, Israel back on a quick video. Well, today I'm going to do another unboxing, first impressions, and update video. This fragrance is also a candidate for a cheap but good fragrance from the house of Lalique. We have Lalique. So Lalique from the house of Lalique is a men's woody aromatic fougere fragrance released in 2016. The nose behind this fragrance is Fabrice Pellegrin and is an eau de toilette concentration. Alright, let's check out the presentation. Alright, so here's the box for Lalique. As you can see, we just have a plain black box here. We have a silver lining going across here with the name right here, name of the house, and the size is at the bottom here. We have the same thing on the back. On top, we do have the Lalique bird crest here on top. Other than that, not too much going on with this box. Let's check out the bottle. Alright, so here's the bottle for Lalique. If you guys aren't familiar with the house of Lalique, they are a French glassware design house. Their bottles tend to be very well designed, very high quality. This is a very thick glass. We do have the name here. It says Lalique here. On the side, we do have a nice intricate design. I really love this design here. It's actually what caught my attention when I first saw this bottle online. And you know, heavy caps. This one is like a cross between metal and plastic, but it's very heavy. Also has the birds on top like the box. These are swallows, I believe. It is the Lalique logo or brand. Some branding they have there. Nice silver step-up atomizer. Beautiful bottle from the house of Lalique. Alright, so here are the notes for Lalique. In the top we have bergamot, rum, and basil. In the mid we have lavender, black pepper, and clary sage. And in the base we round things off with vetiver, patchouli, woody notes, and moss. Yeah, so I don't know much about this fragrance, Lalique. I do know the name stands for the rebellious in French. But other than that, I don't know too much about this fragrance. I was on a buy-sell trade app the other day, and someone was selling this one for quite a bit, actually. But I looked at the bottle. I was like, man, I've never heard of that fragrance before. I thought maybe it was like some sort of cheap knockoff or something, because I've never heard of it before. But then I saw the name Lalique here at the bottom, and I looked at the bottle and the pictures. And man, guys, I showed you the bottle earlier, but this is just gorgeous, you know. And like I mentioned before, that Lalique is a very fancy glassware company. I've tried a couple of others from the line, Encre Noir, Lalique White. Those are a couple of popular ones. And I tried some from their private line. I believe my favorite was Or Intemporel. That was a coffee, boozy tobacco fragrance. But other than that, don't know too much about other fragrances from their house. Don't know anything about this fragrance. Did like some of the notes. I mentioned in the first half of the video, this might be a candidate for a cheap but good fragrance. So this is 100 ml, goes for $35 before shipping and before tax. I'm sure you guys can probably find it cheaper on eBay. But that kind of perked my interest too, going, if this is a good fragrance and no one's really talking about it, I'd love to let you guys know about this one, let you guys know if it's worth you know, a purchase. But let's give this fragrance a first impression. All right, clean hand, pop the cap. Ooh, really good sprayer. Okay. Definitely getting a lot of pepper here. I'm getting the bergamot on top. Getting that basil note, so it's very green. It's fresh. The citrus notes in this kind of remind me slightly of like a tart grapefruit, or almost like a pineapple, but there's none of that in this. But it's definitely the bergamot doing that. The basil is giving it a bit of a... don't know how to really put it, but it's definitely giving it the green notes in this. Kind of getting that rum note, but it's not super prominent in this. Right now it's mostly the citrus, bergamot, and the basil. The black pepper is definitely in there, giving it some kick. I think some of the other green notes are coming from the moss. There's woodsy notes in this. I'm getting some wood notes. Don't know which ones specifically they are, because, you know, they just says woody notes. Starting to turn a little bit from that opening. There was something about the opening that I wasn't a huge fan of, but it's not a deal breaker. Definitely getting that moss more now. It's getting more masculine. The black pepper starting to kick in. That lavender's in there, giving it a bit of that fougere type of barbershop type of feel, but it's not a lot, just slightly with that barbershop feel. Yeah, this is a nice fragrance so far. I can tell it's going to definitely be a mature fragrance. There's a lot of mature notes in this, the black pepper, the patchouli, the moss. But right now, this is definitely for men. It's very masculine. Reminds me of a crisp fall day. It's not heavy, like it's going to be really good for cold weather, but this just reminds me of like walking through the woods on a nice, crisp, cool day. It's starting to get sweeter. I think I'm getting that rum note now. The rum notes kind of reminding me of the rum note and the mixed with the woody notes. Kind of remind me a little bit of Straight to Heaven by Killian. Kind of has that woody, kind of boozy feel. Like you get the woodiness. It's supposed to, I think Straight to Heaven is supposed to resemble rum in a cask, I believe. You guys can correct me in the comments, but so I get a lot of that from Straight to Heaven. I'm getting a little bit of that from this. Yeah, this one's definitely reminding me of Straight to Heaven from the House of Killian with the rum notes in the woods. It's a little sweet like that too. But that one's a lot stronger, a lot heavier. This one's a little bit lighter version of that. But had a lot fresher opening. But that being said, this isn't a bad fragrance. I think if you guys, just right now, if you guys like Straight to Heaven but don't want to spend, you know, $200 on a bottle, this might be a safe alternative. Again, it's only the first couple of minutes. This thing can completely change. But right now, that's what I'm getting. I'm getting a boozy, peppery, green, woodsy fragrance that smells nice. Actually, wasn't expecting it to go in this direction, but I'm glad it did because it's not boring. There's actually not a bad fragrance from Lalique, and for 35 bucks, not a bad fragrance right now. But yeah, not a bad fragrance so far. I'm gonna wear this fragrance tonight, make it my scent of the evening, wear it to work tomorrow and over the next couple of days, and give you guys an update shortly. Talk to you then. All right, well, I'm back with my update for L'Ensommeil from the House of Lalique. Yeah, so I spent the last couple of days with this fragrance, and I gotta say, I do like this fragrance. It's not my favorite, but I do like it. Now, going back to the first half of the video, I did say it reminded me of by Killian's Straight to Heaven, and it still does. But after wearing this fragrance a couple of times, it did remind me of a couple of other popular fragrances. And I was very surprised by that because it sort of made me like this one even more. The only downside of this fragrance was probably the opening. I believe in the first half of the video I said it was basil. I'm not really sure if it's the basil that gives it this, but in the opening it did remind me of Le Labo's Santal 33. Now that opening is very off-putting to me as well. It's almost identical to my nose, just off of memory. But there's a bit of a wet, dirty dish rag type of smell that I got from Santal 33, and I get the same thing from L'Ensommeil. That only lasts for like 30, 35, 40 seconds, something like that, and it goes away. So it's not a deal breaker for this fragrance, but I did notice it. So if you guys didn't like Santal 33 for that reason, you might not like the opening of L'Ensommeil, but it quickly fades and you really are left with a very similar fragrance to Santal 33. Very spicy, very woody. It doesn't have that pickle note like Santal 33 does, but it does have a similar woodiness. This fragrance also reminded me of Sarah Jessica Parker's Stash. I believe that's what it's called. That one's very woody and spicy and resinous as well. And I did like that fragrance, and I do believe that is a pretty cheap fragrance for what you're getting. But I got a lot of those two fragrances in L'Ensommeil, which I think it's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing because Le Labo Santal 33 sells for over $200, $250 depending on where you're buying it. And it's sort of similar to this one. By Killian's Straight to Heaven sells for over $200 depending on where you're buying it. And this one is similar to that with the woody notes in the rum. And Sarah Jessica Parker's Stash is pretty affordable, but still, it still smells really nice. And if you like that fragrance, you're going to like aspects of L'Ensommeil. So I do got to say that I do like this fragrance. It reminded me of a couple of others, but there is quality in this fragrance. I mean, so far I really like the design quality, and I like the quality of the fragrance. And for a cheap fragrance, it's not much more you can ask. Longevity for this fragrance was average for an eau de toilette. I got about 6 hours every time I wore it. I wore this fragrance a few times to work, and it barely made it to the 8th hour. Yeah, by the time I was getting ready to go home, it was almost completely gone. So I would say you probably want to spray your shirt with this fragrance to get better longevity. Projection for this fragrance, again, was average for an eau de toilette. I got about an hour and a half of decent projection, but after that I got very close to the skin. I will say if you want better projection, much like the longevity, just spray your shirt and this should jump off your skin and your shirt a little bit better. Seasons for this fragrance, well, since the performance isn't exactly all there, I will say it's probably safe enough to wear year-round. You're not going to offend anybody around you, and if anything, the heat might actually help the performance with this fragrance. But personally, I do think this fragrance, just on smell alone, will probably be better suited for the cooler months and the colder months of the year. So fall and winter are definitely the best seasons for this fragrance. Occasions for this fragrance, like I mentioned before, this fragrance is safe for work. It's not going to offend anybody around you. And it's very masculine, very woody, very spicy, kind of earthy, and just screams formal events, screams suit and tie, just dressed down, something like date night, something formal. Not strong enough for a club, but anything at night would be definitely great for this fragrance. Ages for this fragrance, well, I do think the younger guys could easily afford this fragrance. Like I mentioned, it's around $30 to $35 online. I don't think they'll really appreciate this fragrance for what it is. I think the older guys really appreciate this fragrance. It's very woody, very spicy and peppery, slightly green, slightly barbershop-ish, but overall it's just very masculine. I do think this one screams formal and dressed down, suit and tie, very professional, gentlemanly environment. So I definitely think 30 and up be the perfect age range for this fragrance. So overall, I do really like this fragrance, and I do think it is a cheap but good fragrance. It might not be for everybody, but for what you're paying and what you're getting, I think you're getting a good fragrance for $30 to $35. You're getting an amazing bottle here. If you guys are fans of the presentation, you're getting an amazing, thick, high-quality bottle. There is quality in the juice. Now, my only complaint was the opening and the performance of this fragrance, but 6 hours isn't bad. It's not eau de toilette. It's $30 to $35. It does remind me of a couple of other niche fragrances out there. Straight to Heaven by Killian, Le Labo's Santal 33, and Stash from Sarah Jessica Parker. All three of those are great, woody, masculine fragrances. And I do think if you like those fragrances, you're going to love Alon Sommet. I do think it's affordable enough to give it a try. Might even be blind buy worthy if you like those fragrances, but you don't want to pay the prices, the inflated prices, for those three fragrances, or at least two of those fragrances. The Sarah Jessica Parker might be cheaper these days, but I still know that Santal 33 and Straight to Heaven is going to be pretty pricey and up there. And the fact that Alon Sommet reminds me of those is probably enough of a reason to really pull the trigger on this fragrance. If you got an extra $30, $35 laying around and you want to try something new, I definitely think you should give Alon Sommet a try. Again, could have a little bit better performance, and the opening with that basil note or whatever that is, the sandalwood or whatever that is, that gives it that sort of dish rag kind of off-putting smell in the first 30 seconds was off-putting, but it wasn't a deal breaker for me. I do like this fragrance. I do think it's worth a buy if you have an extra $30, $35 laying around and you want to try a nice woody masculine fragrance. Again, if you like those niche fragrances that I said this one reminded me of, you might want to try Alon Sommet. Alright guys, so now it's your turn. Has anyone out there tried Alon Sommet from the House of Lalique? If you have, let me know your thoughts on this fragrance down in the comments below. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching our video on my channel. If you like this video, please click that like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those notifications for future first impressions videos and fragrance related content just like this. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Dollars and Cents. There, you'll find fragrance related photos and future contest winners. And as always, until the next video, you guys take care. Thanks.